So many small stakes poker players think that short stacked poker is just bingo. They think someone raises, you go all in, they call, you see who wins, and that determines the champion. But that is not true. There's actually a whole lot of play with shallow stacks. And today we're going to be studying with PeakGTO to look at a spot where we are only 20 big blinds deep. In this scenario, we can go through and set up whatever specific hand and situation we want. We're going to be in the big blind versus a lojack raise. That would be first to act if there were 6 players at the table. 20 big blinds deep versus a raise. So lojack's going to raise. That's going to fold around to us. Today, I want the flop to be a good one for the big blind. Let's make it 7, 6, 5. Okay? And let's select our hand. We can have any specific hand or range. Let's give us this range. We only want to see our opponent's showdown if we get to the river. Let's click start. Here we go. Studying with a program like PeakGTO is incredibly valuable because it lets you put yourself in a real situation. And you have to figure out what you should do. Ace Queen is going to be an easy all-in 100% of the time. So go all in, the opponent folds. This time, lojack raises. Now we have King 3 of clubs. This is going to be a nice hand to call with, as you see 100% calls. 7, 6, 5. No club. Now, in this spot, you do want to do a lot of leading tiny. You may say, what? Why in the world would I lead tiny? This is a spot where we have a big range advantage, or at least some range advantage, because the lojack player really doesn't have a whole lot of middle cards in their range. They're just going to fold a lot of those. So that allows us to bet frequently and small and just nudge money into the pot when we are favored. Now, King 3 is certainly a hand that would want to do that with a gut shot and an overcard some chunk of the time. However, we have this little randomizer here. It rolls a number between 1 and 100. Whenever it's a low number, like a 1, I usually take the passive line if I think we should be using mixed strategies, like I think we should be doing here. If it's a high number, like 100, I'm basically always going to bet. So in this spot, we'll check, but we should lead a decent chunk of the time. As you see, 50-ish% of the time, we should lead there. Check on the flop. Should we start bluffing? Probably. You want to go medium, big, huge? What? We rolled also another low number, so we could check, but I think we can probably check this one again. 79% check. All right, I would have bet this a little bit too often. And going through and training will help you calibrate, like, would I have bluffed in this spot too often? The thing is, in this scenario, we actually have a ton of hands that can bluff, right? So king high is probably a little bit too good. Ace on the river, no need to bet now because we actually have the best hand a lot. Check. And we lose. Next hand. Actually, before we go to the next hand, I want to go over here and show you what our general strategy looks like before the flop and on the flop, because that will hopefully help you know that we're not just blindly guessing over here. We are using good, strong GTO strategies. If we go back over here to before the flop, lojack raises with a good, strong range, right? All good hands. Folds around us in the big blind. Here is what we are doing. Take a second, give it a look. Small and medium pairs, and queens mostly goes all in. 5s and 2s off to call. Ace, king, ace, queen, ace, jack go all in. Ace 7 suited, some king 10 suited, and that is it. We are not just ripping it in all that often in this spot. Notice also we're folding out the weakest offsuit stuff, but all the suited stuff gets to call. We're also re-raising our best hands, and then a few bluffs. I personally am going to make a point to use the jack 7 offsuit every time in this situation. Although notice you are mixing with some ace X, king X, and queen X, and jack X. All right? On the flop, when we call, and the flop comes 7, 6, 5, we're going to do a bunch of leading. You may say, I've never led in this spot in my whole life. Well, that's probably an epiphany that a lot of people are having right now. They check to the preflop raiser every time, especially when they're from early position, thinking, oh, the preflop raiser has a lot of good hands. And to be fair, they do have aces, kings, queens, jacks, 10s, 9s. But notice we have all the 2 pairs, lots of pairs and draws, and also the opponent has a lot of junk. We have this equity graph over here. This shows the 2 players. The red player is the out of position. That's the big blind. The green player is the initial raiser, the in position player. This is one of these rare occurrences where the red line is actually above the green line at the top portion of your range. These are all the best hands. And that's because the big blind has straights and 2 pairs and whatnot, whereas the initial raiser does not. Also, in the middle portion of your range, you have this big, nice chunk of hands that are just better than your opponent's. We have lots and lots of 1-pair hands. The opponent has lots and lots of ace-high hands and king-high hands. So, when this is the case, you often bet frequently using a small size. We discuss this thoroughly at pokercoaching.com. If this is new to you, please check out the tournament masterclass. Here's a raise. We call the 8-6 offsuit. This looks like a great hand to lead small because it is very likely good. We'll go for the small bet almost every time, you see. And we get called. Turns a jack. Do we keep betting? So typically your middle pairs or, second, third, fourth pairs often do a whole lot of checking in general because they're likely good if a little bit of money goes in the pot. But if a lot of money goes in the pot, that's not the case. Now, there are some exceptions. Usually hands like this that have lots of equity, like pair plus, straight draw, and flush draw, I think will sometimes put money in the pot. I think this one is probably fine to check, although I wouldn't be shocked if a small or medium bet's used. We did roll a high number, so that would make me want to bet it a little bit more often if we're trying to use the randomizer. Oh gosh, I'm tempted just to bet big because we rolled such a high number. Like, do we bet this big 13-ish% of the time? I don't know. I'm going to go for the... I'm going to go for the small bet. 48% small bets. So notice we did not use the big bet. We used the small bet or the check, which is good. Came up with a good play. We get raised. Now do we just put it all in or do we call? I gotta presume we call and then fold on some really bad rivers. Although maybe we just put it all in. Call or all in. Good. River 4. Do we donk lead it? Oh man. Does that seem like bingo? Are we, I know we're clicking buttons over here. So far, we've gotten them all right. But, this is intricate stuff, 20 big blinds deep. I think we're supposed to lead all in here. But, are we leading anything else that's not? I guess if we have, some one pair hands, we can bluff all in. I don't know. This is a dicey one. I'm going to shove, but I could be convinced check is better. Sorry, it is shove. So that's good. Nailed it on that one. All right, let's play again. They raise. This is 3-bet. Not all in, 55%. We just looked at it, right? Call the 10-2 suited. All suited hands call preflop. 7-6-5. This is a pretty bad one. I think we just check fold this. Check, check, though. Do we start bluffing? So here we have a lot of 9s, 8s, 4s, 3s that can bluff. Typically, when you're out of position, you want most of your bluffs to come from hands with equity, just as a general GTO rule. So I'm going to check this because it's so bad. 93% check, so that's good. Although you do see a little bit of betting getting in there, even with this total junker. Queen 7 offsuit will call. 7-6-5. Do we lead this one? I would presume definitely. By the way, I know we only have 3 sizes here. Check, bet, 1.4 big blinds, or all in. You're going to find that on boards like this, and in general, when you are leading, you usually only want to have a small lead size for the most part. That's just because you're never hugely favored, right? In order to have a big lead size, you'd want the red line to be above the green line almost the entire time, and especially way above it at the top of the equity graph, but that's just not the case. Anyway, I'll lead this one for sure, a large chunk of the time. We get jammed on. All right, how do you feel about this? Take a second, think about it. Let me know in the comment section down below what you would do with this one. While you're down there, click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the notification bell. If you like these types of videos, please let me know. I don't even know what the opponent should be shoving with, so that is a question I'm going to ask it. Whenever you are studying solver outputs like this, don't just play and mindlessly click through and try to get a good score. You should try to get a good score, but also, very importantly, you want to ask questions and then go try to find the answer. What should the opponent be shoving here? That's what I really want to know. If you know before I do. Comment section, go down there and type it. I gotta presume they want to shove some hands with an 8. Ace 8? Maybe, shouldn't that just call a lot? Maybe they just want to shove hands like Ace 7, King 7, pocket 8s, pocket 9s. I can be convinced of that. Are those good enough to raise small? I don't know. Look, we're going to call here, but I have no clue what the opponent should be shoving with. Oh, look, it actually wants us to fold. I got it wrong. Wrong and wrong. Let's take a look at what they should be doing. Because I do not know. All right, what should they be shoving on the flop? I said 9s and 8s. So, we were roughly in the region, Ace 7. Okay, so that makes sense. We got those. And then just a smattering of low-frequency bluffs all in. Yeah, right. With Queen Jack, Queen 10. King 9 makes sense. This hand makes sense to shove, right? King 9 of hearts, some tiny portion of the time. Sure. So, King 8, Ace 9, Ace 10 is kind of a weird one to shove. But look, if it is entirely, or pretty much entirely, A7, some King 7, Jacks, 10s, and 9s. You can see over here the category, overpairs and top pairs, right? And then a few bluffs, mainly with a 9 or overcards and backdoor flush draws. So very interesting scenario. And if you told me that was the range, I would have folded because Queen 7 actually does very badly against these, and that's a large chunk of their range. So we bet they go all in. What do we call with? We call with all the good 8s because these have decent equity. Looks like most of the 7s call. All this stuff calls. So I know we picked a low frequency play here. I was surprised at this, but notice A7, King 7, 10, 7, 9, 7, like all these calls, so I don't feel so bad about that one. Pocket queens, we will re-raise small or go all in. I like re-raise small in that spot. Let's do one more post-flop hand and we'll call it a day. 9, 7, 5. This is a pretty good one to lead with, right? 96% lead small. They call. Says check. That was incorrect. All right. Turn is a 3. Do we bet again? I think this one probably is fine checking, although I could be convinced that small bet's fine. Oh, small bet was fine. Okay. We lose a bunch of elo points there, too, even though we're supposed to use it some. Do we bluff river? 8 big blinds, all in. Okay, I think we need to go all in, but that might result in us bluffing too often. Here we block the 9-8, which is nice, right? So that's a good thing for us. So we want to bet. The question is how much do we bet? I'm going to go all in, but I'm not sure if that's right. All right, it is all in. Good, 99% all in. Glad we didn't miss that one. Haha, and we'd be out of the tournament. That's fine. Let's take a look at this, just to really solidify this spot. On the river, whenever it runs off a 5 straight to the 8, where we have a lot of the 8s, we are usually betting big when we bet. Now, the question is how big? Interesting enough, we on the turn, we were supposed to lead. Oh, remember how we were supposed to lead small on the turn? That's why we are off the game tree. Whenever this happens, where we were supposed to lead small or medium on the turn, because we do have a lot of straights, and they don't. Now on the river, our range is a little bit funny, but this kind of concept comes up when it does run off a 5 straight and you have a lot of straights and they don't, you typically bet big. You know what I want to do? I want to go back and replay this hand because we messed it up on the turn. You click replay. It'll replay the spot. Let's try it again. Try it again. Let's see if we can get it right. We already know lead small. They call. Turn is the 3. Let's go lead, or let's go bet small again. I think our hand's going to really like to bet small because, well, like I said, it's clearly a medium strength hand. River's now a 4. Now do we go all in? This is a different spot because the opponent could probably have some 8s still, but certainly we do too. I got to presume we should still go all in, but I could be wrong about this one too. Nope, all in 98%. Good. Glad we found it. Still get stacked. Ha ha ha. Let's take a look at this one more time in the library before we wrap it up. When we bet small and get called, are we leading the river huge a lot or not so a lot? I think we're leading the river all in, like a lot. Look at, turns out a lot is actually a lot every single time. Now, you think this is bingo? This stuff's tricky. This stuff is hard. Like right here, though, if you look at our equity graph, the red line is above the green line just across the board and especially at the top, right? And that is why we're getting to make this play. On the turn, notice here, the red line is way above the green line. Remember I said if the red line was way above the green line, we're going to bet almost every time. And we do get to use some bigger sizes because we're way up ahead at the top, right? Notice we are using the larger bet size of 5 big blinds into the 8 big blind pot. So, cool stuff, right? Poker is not bingo. Poker is hard. And I recommend, for you to get better, you need to go through the PeakGTO replayer and test yourself, quiz yourself, study specific spots that give you trouble. If you do that on a regular basis, you're going to get way better at poker really fast. If you enjoyed the video, click the like and subscribe button before you go. Check out PeakGTO. Thank you very much for being here, and I'll talk to you next time.